Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines. This is our daily get-together live here on Facebook every day, 10:30 in the morning, where we take a look at headlines, stories, comments, ideas, questions, suggestions on how to have an amazing life here in Puerto Vallarta as an English-speaking community. It is always a pleasure to get together with all of you, and particularly on Mondays, because Mondays we get to see what goes on with the COVID numbers that our Governor Enrique Alfaro announces every Sunday afternoon. And let me tell you, it seems like the shit has finally hit the fan. To put it bluntly, we have a saying, an expression in Spanish, which would be very appropriate, which is en la madre, which literally means in the mother, which makes no sense. But yes, it seems like today we are going to spend a fair amount of time taking a look at what our governor has announced as far as what's going to happen or what could very likely happen. Remember, at this point, everything is imminent. And so we'll take a look at what the announcement had to say. We'll, unwrap it and take a look at it point by point, and we will see what this means to all of us. But first, let me say hello to everybody that joins us on a regular basis. And if you're new to these broadcasts, my name is Paco. We'd love to find out that you're new. You can let us know by writing the word new in your comments. And of course, if you have important questions that you want to address during the broadcast, it helps a lot if you add the letter Q to your question. That way we'll get to it during the broadcast or shortly thereafter. I'm going to very quickly see who's here and who's not, and see if there's any initial important comments I should be looking at. Yesterday was a lot of fun. Yesterday I forgot to do my Judy Woodruff. I'm very sorry about that. I'm going to have to schedule that for some point in the near future. And yesterday also I forgot to show you my Katrina collection, including my multi-purpose Katrina that has both breasts and a penis, but we're not going to get into that today. But please know, if you're new, that Sundays we do have that kind of a show. Let's see. Okay, I don't see any specific. Oh no. Well, Gouda, I appreciate the good intention. I really, really do. And I do hope that when you come back, you will travel safely and you will reach PV just as you found it and as you miss it. I am sure you miss our city. Oh, honey, you have no idea. Heather, you have no idea. We will talk about that as well. Yes, indeed, the Vallarta Opina. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we will definitely talk about that. Lorraine says yesterday's news is stressing her out. Actually, I'm going to show you a different point of view, Lorraine, so that you will hopefully find that yesterday's news are actually comforting. I actually think that they're comforting. But, let me just dive into this because I see that we're all gathered here. There are more than 200 people joining us. That always makes me very, very excited. So let me get started. For starters, and I'm going to skip all the fancy headline. No, I'm not. Why not? We always do the headline dance. Why not do the headline dance today? So this is what happened yesterday. Our governor Enrique Alfaro went on to his Facebook page, as he always does, and he gave an 8 minute announcement. And the announcement consisted of the following. And I'm going to try to summarize. We're not going to replay the announcement, and I'm just going to take the key points. For starters, the big bomb that he dropped had to do with the fact that we've known for some time that if the number of active cases reaches 400, we go into emergency button mode. Well, yesterday, the governor announced that the number is at 396.7 active cases out of 1 million inhabitants in the state of Jalisco. So that pretty much puts us at the very edge of what could likely be the pushing of the emergency button. Now, what exactly did the governor say? Well, first of all, let's take a look at why he is making these announcements. Number one, people have been dying at a rate of at least 25 per day for several weeks here in the state of Jalisco. I don't have the exact amount of weeks, but I can dig it up if you are so curious about that. Number one. Number two, the governor announced that even though our occupancy rate in the hospitals, our hospital occupancy rate has been favorable or not very bad, he also announced that certain intensive care units in several parts of the state are reaching alarming numbers. He also mentioned that what we know, people are out and about as though nothing is wrong. People are not using face masks, although people know that they should be using face masks. And businesses are not, let me get out of the way. Our businesses are not following guidelines as they should. Now, what else do we have here? This is all happening despite the fact that the state government, that our governor announced the emergency button on July 13. And every single week, he has been saying, if we get past these numbers, something is going to happen. And now it seems like it will happen. When will this happen? Well, for the first time since the first implementation of the emergency button on July 13th, the numbers will be examined midweek on Tuesday evening. That is tomorrow evening. And an announcement will be made Wednesday morning for the emergency button, which would start on Friday. That is in 4 days from today, this coming Friday. How would this happen? Well, it would last for 14 days from October 30th to November 12th. Afterwards, the results would be evaluated in order to define the next steps. Please notice I am saying it would last. This has not been confirmed, but at the end of this presentation, I'll give you my own opinion of whether I think this is going to happen or not. But this would last 14 days from October 30th to November 12th. Activities would only stop in the evening, starting at 8 p.m. During the daytime, it will be business as usual, but thoroughly abiding by the existing guidelines. This is an important point. When the emergency button was first devised and announced, the governor originally said that if the button was pushed, everything would go to a halt. Well, time has passed, and the scientists and both the people that are in charge of economy and the people that are in charge of health have had a chance to take a look at what this would imply. And of course, for us to stop the economy altogether at this stage of the game could also provide disastrous effects, and we know that. Moving on, we would be to stay at home during the weekends. During the weekends, all activities would be suspended all day long, except for Puerto Vallarta, where activities will stop at 8 p.m. during the entire day period. This is important because I'm going to show you in a little while how a very well-known local newspaper really misunderstood that announcement and published a couple of headlines that made me really feel disgusted at how little capability they have for understanding and interpreting and providing responsible journalism, but don't get me started. Number 4, industrial activities that require continuous processes can continue to operate during the evenings and weekends as long as they have their own their own transportation system. Why is this? Because the city is going to stop the buses at 8 o'clock at night. See, the city is not trying to stop people from working. The city is not trying, the government is not trying to stop people from working. The government is trying to stop people from gathering at places where they're not supposed to gather. Furthermore, this is not curfew, and the governor was very clear on that point. It does not mean that work stops. Again, this is about people not going out when they should be staying in. Food deliveries can continue to take place in the evening and weekends. So if you get hungry, if you're at home, you're going to be fine. And convenience stores and such will remain open, but again, no public transportation will be available after 8 p.m. and after 8 p.m. on weekdays. At least that's what the governor said. Gatherings of 10 people or more behind closed doors are forbidden, and events with more than 50 people in open spaces are forbidden. Now, will it happen? I'm going to tell you that I think it will happen, and I'm going to tell you why. Number 1, I put together this quick chart earlier today. These are, as you know, every Monday we've been going through the numbers, and these are the number of active cases that we've seen in the state of Jalisco for the past 4 weeks. Starting with October 4th, we had 360. Then the number went down on October 11th to 348.3. Then the number went up again on October 18th to 364.2. And just yesterday, the number spiked all the way up to 396.7. So Excel tells me that this is an upward tendency, and I actually don't think they are going to be able to reverse it in a matter of 2 days. I just don't see that happening. So I do think that the governor will push the button on Wednesday, and I do think that the emergency 2-week period will start on Friday. Furthermore, we know that the emergency button would go on between October 30th to November 12th. We also know that El Buen Fin, this very important campaign that the government has announced of 2 weeks during which you can go out and enjoy all kinds of savings, just as in the United States they have the weekend after Thanksgiving. There is only a 4-day overlap between the El Buen Fin event and the emergency button, should the emergency button be pushed. And one of the things that the governor made very clear in his announcement is we don't want this happening after the end of November, or the second half of November, because we know that from the second half of November to the end of the year, the end of December, this is the last period of time that we have to reactivate the economy in our state. The governor's not stupid. He knows that due to the holidays and Thanksgiving and so forth and so on, these are important dates. Just imagine what would happen if the economy was to be altered or the button was to be pushed later on in the year. Now, the governor did say, and I mentioned this because I saw through the one of the questions that we're going to address in a second. What about the beach, you ask? I like the fact that your priorities are in the right place, beachgoers. The governor was very clear in saying this is the big picture. We will give you specific information in the days to come. That would be today and tomorrow. So now that I've told you what I saw and what I know, let me not answer your questions just yet. Let me please show you how this information was interpreted by news sources. Please remember that everything I just told you came directly from the horse's mouth. Everything that I told you came from the announcement made by the government. So if I fucked it up, it's only because of bad hearing more than anything else. But let's take a look at how the local media interprets this. Well, I was so disappointed yesterday when I saw this headline coming from the Vallarta Opina, and they have actually cleaned up their act. When they published this article, the headline used to read, Puerto Vallarta will not have an emergency button. Nightclubs, businesses, and bars will remain open. And I saw that and I thought to myself, that is so freaking irresponsible. Well, somebody must have gotten in touch with them. I noticed that Pilar Perez wrote that she got in touch with the paper because they changed the headline, but they did not change the content of the article. Somewhere in this article, this says that Puerto Vallarta would not have those measures because beaches, nightclubs, bars, and restaurants and plazas will continue to operate every day, including the weekends, as long as they guarantee the fulfillment of social distance guidelines. So the Vallarta Opina says that nothing wrong is going to happen in Puerto Vallarta. That is simply not true, and it is very irresponsible to report it that way. Informador, which is a Guadalajara-based news source, also came up with their own version of the news. They said about Puerto Vallarta, where is it? In Puerto Vallarta, the suspension would only be during the nighttime, and it would not apply to the weekends, whereas the governor said very clearly that the nighttime closing in Puerto Vallarta would apply for the 14 days of the pandemic. Now, Informador also then went on and published all kinds of guidelines that include the beaches and the times and so forth and so on, and when the beaches are going to be open and closed. But I am not going to get into this right now, and I'm going to tell you why. I am going to wait for the government to issue the specific details rather than get you all confused by news that are being made public by the news outlets today. I will command noticiaspb.com, which is a local news source, because Noticiaspb was very clear in talking about Puerto Vallarta and saying that Puerto Vallarta, let me see if I can find the specific paragraph about Puerto Vallarta. In Puerto Vallarta, where the suspension would be nighttime activity through the 14 days. So Noticias PB understood the message. Vallarta Independiente also understood the message perfectly well. Whereas Vallarta Independiente says Puerto Vallarta will enjoy a privileged deal in which they will also have activities during the weekends, but only until 8 p.m. So Vallarta Independiente understood the message. Contralinea, another local source, also understood the message. And I don't need to find it because I trust that if you hear me say that they understood the message, they understood the message. So that's what the deal is. Now let me take a quick look at your comments just to see if you have any specific questions that we can address at this point. Let's see. Oh my God, 265 people are watching. How fun. Welcome to Coffee and Headlines, everybody. We try to keep things clear and transparent and as accurate as possible. And we make jokes and we make you laugh and we make you enjoy the destination. That red button number always seems like a moving goalpost. Well, yes, Felix, but finally it looks like it's going to happen. I heard, though, that PV would be exempt from the restrictions. True? Absolutely false. The restrictions are going to be modified for Puerto Vallarta because Puerto Vallarta is a destination that makes a huge amount of revenue from tourism. But the governor spoke very clearly, and the governor said that Puerto Vallarta will close at 8 p.m. at night during the 14 days. Unless the governor changes his tune between today and Wednesday. That's what the governor said. Will Uber be stopped at 8 p.m. as well? No. Taxi cabs at Ubers will be able to continue to operate. I actually think these next 2 weeks are going to be a boon for taxi drivers, especially if the local government will stop public transportation at 8 p.m. They just don't want to have people out in the streets. They want to have people at home where people don't catch the virus unless you're having huge gatherings in your house, which you're not supposed to have. La 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 la. What about the beach? Shannon asks. Well, there is going to be a restriction on the time in which the beach can be accessed. Again, I don't have the specific information, or rather, there is specific information in one of the news sources. I'd rather wait for a couple of days and see what that looks like. I don't know if that is directed at me, Kathleen. If it is, please let me know and I'll be happy to clarify. I think I've just shown you all the news sources that I'm reading. And most importantly, I showed you the actual announcement made by the governor. That is the news source. That is the only news source, actually. How many private hospitals treat COVID patients in PV? How many beds in private hospitals for COVID patients? Marie, does that really matter? I don't mean to get confrontational, but the bottom line is how many people are taking care of ourselves and themselves? How many people are following the guidelines? How many people are using face masks when they know that they should be using them? How many people are showing and watching safe distance when they're out and about? To me, those are the important numbers, Marie. I'm sorry I cannot give you a specific number about hospitals, but quite frankly, I don't think that number is as important. And that's just my personal opinion. No gatherings or more than 10 people behind closed doors. What about open airs, bars, and restaurants? I believe I was just clear about that. If you have an outdoor venue, you can have as many as 50 people. Actually, folks, for those of us that live here, you can go out and get shit-faced and enjoy your happy hour until 7. And at 7, you take your time getting home and then you go home. What's the big deal? I actually think this is a good measure, and I'm going to tell you why. Because we know that COVID is not going anywhere. And until they find a way to have an actual vaccine that can give us immunity to it, I think doing this kind of emergency stopping will be necessary from time to time if the numbers at any specific location start to increase. So as long as the vaccine is not happening, we may have to have this kind of emergency button maneuver every few months just to keep things in check. Shoot, I wish I knew I could only get COVID-19 after 8 p.m. and on weekends. I love that. Diana wants to blame everybody. Well, Diana, I hope you are taking care of yourself, because I would be the first person to blame you if you weren't. Our resort is telling us they may have to move us to Nayarit if the button is pushed. Actually, the governor has not said anything about the hotel industry, and I seriously doubt that they will close hotels, because again, this is not about people vacationing here. It's about people not congregating in public. William brings up an important point. Keyword is enforcement. Face masks are already mandatory. The challenge here, William, is that the governor can say all this stuff. And the governor did say in his address that he is expecting mayors in all the municipalities in the states to follow these guidelines to a T. And you're absolutely correct. If our mayor does not enforce this, if our mayor and his staff do not enforce these guidelines when they're out and about, this exercise means very little. I saw videos of the La Bodeguita in the Malecón, and it was music and people dancing. That place is not very big or well ventilated. My point precisely, Angelica. As long as businesses and the local government don't pay attention to what they're supposed to be paying attention, this is going to continue to happen. Let's see. Let's see. Pam, parim, pam, 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 pam. So we can order food from restaurants after 8 p.m. if this happened? The answer is yes. The governor was very, very specific. Um, Thank you for the number, Pilar. Yes, those are the numbers that I have seen. Beach opens from 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Sunday and Monday here in Puerto Vallarta. So if you want to go jogging early in the morning, if you want to take a splash in the ocean, you can do it early. But I don't want to publicize things that are not still made, that are not yet made official by the government. Um, Buenos dias. Does this closure possibly affect all states in Mexico? No. Please remember that our governor has decided to dance to his own tune. The rest of the country is handling itself based on a federal stoplight system that is a different story altogether. This is only applying to Jalisco. Let's see, what else do you have? No, we're not going to get into Governor Newsom. We're not going to get into U.S. governors either because we live in Puerto Vallarta and this is where we live. Let's see, let's see, let's see. Se puede caminar a modo de. Yes, you can walk after 8 p.m. Absolutely. See, the governor's not saying stay locked in because we're going to arrest you. The governor is simply saying don't gather in public. I am certainly going to go out for a walk late at night if I feel so inclined, but I'm not going to bring my 250 best friends to do it. I think that is a fairly reasonable thing, and I'm glad that Glenn agrees with me. Let's see what else. If you practice all the guidelines, you should be okay. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Shirley. Um, let's all be kind to each other, tolerate questions and concerns, and practice empathy. Oh my God, if I get too testy, please somebody slap me. I'm just trying to be nice and make sure that everybody's point of view is taken care of. Um, the bus system should be running longer than 8 p.m. Majority of people using the bus system are workers. If you close the businesses at 8 p.m., yes, taxis and Ubers will be busy and increase prices because the demand. How can employees get home at fair prices? Good question, Michael. I don't think there is a perfect solution for anything as far as COVID-19 is concerned and about what's happening here in the state. I choose to believe that our governor, along with his economic team and his health team, are trying to come up with the best possible scenario given the timeline and the circumstances. Da, 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 da. If you pam 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 pam. I'm gonna stay away from the Gringos versus Nationals as well. But I will chime in with Pilar. It is absolutely frustrating to go out, whether you are Mexican or visiting or whatever. Something so freaking simple as just wearing a face mask. You know, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Um, do they have trick-or-treaters here? No, everything is canceled. Everything is canceled. Please don't have anything prepared because the city has canceled Halloween. The city has restricted access to the Malecon and has discouraged everybody from having celebrations. Um, what else? What else? What else? We still have a few extra news, so I'm just going to try to move through this very quickly because it's already 10:59. La 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 la. Where did the term aguas come from to denote danger? From the Middle Ages and beyond, when people used to take a dump in buckets, and before there was plumbing, they would just empty their water bucket out the window and warn people that were walking under it that agua, meaning water, was about to fall. That's where the term comes. Um, that was very timely. I love it. It made me think of the what was it, the vortex of poo that we used to talk about when the pandemic started, and how they were saying that when you flush your toilet, you could expect all these vortexes of poo going up after the flush. Oh, did we laugh about that? Did we laugh about that at the time? Let's see. Let's see. As an RN, I plan to wear a mask all of the time, all of 2021. Well, take it off when you take a shower, Shirley. If you're taking a shower by yourself, of course. Da, 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 da. Thanks for clearing that up. And ooh, well, that's where the expression came from. What can I tell you? Aguas con el basin, absolutely. Okay, folks, let me move on to other headlines that are just as important, because we do have them. And I will start by saying, oh my God, did I forget to bring up my leisurely headlines? Yes, I did. Let me put these up before I forget. Hang in there, because I forgot to put in some good news in today's broadcast. They're going to come up in a strange order, but here we are. Not yet in the good news, but let me tell you that on Saturday, the local church, the Church of Guadalupe, announced, yes, of course, we're going to have peregrinaciones this year. And hold on just a second. Let me cue this. There you go. Yes, we're going to have peregrinaciones this year, said the local parish. But as soon as the local parish said that, all the newspapers came out and contradicted, saying we are not going to have peregrinaciones. There will be no pilgrimages this year. For those of you that don't know, usually in Puerto Vallarta, from December 1st to December 12th, we have these enormous, very popular processions that go from all points in town to the church in the middle of the city. And these are going to be canceled this year, said by just about every newspaper in the region. No pilgrimages. So I would be very, very surprised if the government came back and turned around and announced that we are going to have them. I know that they're very important for many believers, but I don't think this is a good year to be out and about chanting for anything, for that matter. Let us take a quick look at the weather and move on to a couple of other headlines I have saved for you. Let's see. It's 29 degrees Fahrenheit, but it feels like 37. It's that heat wave that is going on around the city right now that is going to make us feel hot and miserable all day long. It is 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity is up again at 89%. When is this going to stop? I'd like to know. There is 0% chance of rain right now. And the weather forecast for today is humid and partly cloudy through the day, highs of 32. Humid and partly cloudy through the day tomorrow, again, highs of 32. And Wednesday, it'll be humid through the day with a high temperature of 31 degrees. So it's not going away just yet. Let me take a quick look at any questions you may have before I continue. Marco Antonio wants to know, what is the best restaurant to celebrate a birthday on the 28th with all the safety measures and the social distancing? Marco Antonio, that is a big question considering the size of the bay and considering the fact that even though we're a Puerto Vallarta centered broadcast, a lot of people watch from other places. I think you will help your question if you let people know what part of town you are hanging out in, and then we will be able to give you a better assessment. We've been talking a lot about self-care. And we've been talking a lot about pampering ourselves and taking care of ourselves before we take care of others. On Saturday, we took a close look at two current situations that makes us wonder how much we are taking care of ourselves or not. One of them being that research that was going on about the chaos in... Oh, dear. Hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. Thank you. We took a look at what's going on with that Costco research, and then we took a look at disappearances in Mexico, and we mentioned how important it is that we take care of ourselves and we choose what we're going to let upset our well-being on any given day. I was happy to run into this article on Huffington Post where it talks about self-care becoming a more radical act. We used to think about self-care as, let us pamper ourselves, but given the current situations, taking good care of ourselves becomes increasingly important. So I would like to leave this article with you for you to research on your own time. This one caught my attention because apparently in Singapore, people are so starved to go out and travel again that they opened a couple of planes in an airport in Singapore where you can board the plane and have a dinner on the plane. The plane is not going to go anywhere. All you have to do is feel like you're traveling. So that's crazy, but this is what's happening in Singapore. Would I want to just hop on a plane to have a meal on the plane just for the sake of it? No, not at all. Our very trustworthy Vallarta Opina reminds us of the news that we shared just a few weeks ago about this woman who set out to swim across the bay here in Banderas Bay, and she actually did it. Her name is Maria Dolly Davila, and it took her 9 hours and 14 minutes, a Mexican Olympic swimmer, to do her challenge to swim from one tip of the bay to the other. And she is apparently going to donate some proceeds to Corazón de Niño. Good for her. I also want to tell you that you can add this to your bucket list if you want. Apparently, there is this room or this house in a pueblo mágico here in Jalisco. They call it the Flintstone House. I bet it's made of cardboard. But hey, what do I know? This is actually a cabin that you can rent in Mazamitla, one of the magic towns here in the state of Jalisco. I will leave you with a bookmark for it. And yesterday, I didn't want to bring bad news, but yesterday was the anniversary of when Hurricane Kema, arrived in Puerto Vallarta. I know a few people were here, and this was the very last major hurricane to hit us. And it was sad. It was very difficult for many, but it can happen. And let's just hope that it will not happen this year. Again, it seems to be that the hurricanes have left us, and let us hope that that is the case. Let me take a quick look at your final questions. Given the fact that there's so many of you watching, I want to thank everybody that is watching Coffee and Headlines. If you are new to the broadcast, again, we get together every morning to look at news and comments and headlines and questions. We try to create connections between our viewers, local English-speaking folk, and the destination. And we try to do this with as much accuracy and transparency as possible. Credibility is very important here at Coffee and Headlines. Marco Antonio, I think you clarified that you're going to be in Zona Romantica. Yes, you did. I think there are quite a few restaurants where you're going to be able to do this on the 28th. And I'm sure you're going to get some recommendations. Actually, my recommendation is if you're going to be in Zona Romantica and this is going to be a 28th, I would go to Daiquiri Dick's, which is a beautiful restaurant, and it has a huge alfresco area. The attention is wonderful. The staff is fully bilingual, and the food is absolutely delicious. Let's see. Logan wants to live in Flintstone House. Paco says, let's go, let's find it, and let's drive there once we can. Let's see. Wow, we've reached the end of the questions, and you've started to leave. I don't blame you. It's a beautiful day, and we still have a lot of things to do today. Let me, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for your preference. And thank you for providing me with a lot of information to research. Thank you for providing us with a purpose. We will continue, obviously, to do Coffee and Headlines, and we will pay very much attention to the news and the headlines and the announcements that take place between today and Wednesday. Remember, we don't know for a fact yet that the button will be pushed, but it is imminent. I think it is very likely. I don't think there's any reason to panic. There's no reason for you to go crazy and go shopping now. But, if you want to stock up on some wine and cheese and things that you want to have at home, I don't think it's a bad idea. And again, we will continue to strive to give you the best information possible. You know what we need to do. Stay safe distanced, wear a mask, stay at home. Aside from that, continue to stay kind, stay patient, and stay in touch. And I'll keep you posted. Have a great day.